Some people think that the world will take care of itself, that we have just won the Cold War to end all Cold Wars. Indeed, just a few years ago, it was argued that we had reached the end of history. But history is still being written every day.
Did you think a logical step for you, if you were now running a successful defense contracting company at the cutting edge of defense technology and intelligence technology, the next step might be for you to go work in the government?
No, I didn't think that.
Why not?
Because I liked very much what I was doing. I liked very much living here. My family was here, my friends were here, my home was here, my company was here. My image was I was going to take this company and build it into another Hewlett-Packard. And then my 13th year in the company was when Harold Brown offered me the job as the Undersecretary of Defense. To make a long story short, I eventually said yes, which in retrospect I'm convinced was the right answer. Mm-hmm. But I was very slow coming to that answer. Mm-hmm. I was very reluctant to leave my company, my home, Stanford. I mean, I love this area, but part of the reason I loved this area is because Stanford was here. And people talk about the climate. The climate was a small part, but not the overwhelming part for me. It was the different kind of a climate, the intellectual climate. The idea that anything is possible, and if you try something audacious and it doesn't work, people don't think you're a nut. I like that spirit about this place. I've always liked that spirit here. To me, that's the Silicon Valley spirit. It's the adventuresome spirit, the willingness to try new things.
So what tipped the balance for you to uproot your family and to leave your company?
His deputy, Gene Fubini, where he said, for a technical person, he said, this is the most interesting job in the world. It will forever change your way of thinking. And both of those things have turned out to be correct. He persuaded me that this is an intellectual challenge that I should not pass up.
So when you took the job, were you already thinking of some of the innovative technologies that you set in motion there?
Yes, very much. In fact, he and Harold put it to me that way. They said, we want you to do in this job what you did in your company. We want you to introduce digital technology to the Defense Department. You have to remember, this is 1977. I don't have the number, maybe 90%, maybe 95% of military equipment was still with vacuum tubes. And it was an antiquated system. And they believed that we had to bring our conventional forces in parity with those of the Soviet Union, even though they outnumbered us 3-1. That was what they called the offset strategy. They wanted to offset their numbers with technology.
As someone who's worked in the academy and in the private sector, and of course now we're talking about a period when you're working in the government, what differences did you find in the way they approached problem solving?
What really surprised me, Phil, was the differences were many fewer than I thought. When I went back to take that job, and later on I took the job as Secretary of Defense, the big question I had in my mind was, would the management style, which had worked for me in the company, also work in the Pentagon? My conclusion was it did. I suppose that was my biggest hang-up about taking that job. Will I be as effective in this job as I was in the job of running a company? Or will I find the bureaucracy of the Pentagon impenetrable? By and large, I found that the leadership techniques which worked in the company worked in the Pentagon as well. Had to apply them differently and at a different scale, but the same principles worked.
So what, in a nutshell, would those principles be?
It's pretty hard to put them in a nutshell, but one of them I have described many times as managed by walking around, which is you don't base your decisions on the memos you get on your desk. You base them go around and talking with the people who are doing the work. And that worked even in the Pentagon, even as big as it is. Secondly, once you decided what you wanted to do and why you wanted to do it, the key people who are going to be necessary to carry that out, you explain it to them. You communicate with them. You say, this is what we're trying to do, and this is why we're trying to do it. It was a bigger operation, but there's only a small percentage of the people you need to really get through to. Figure out who they are and get to them.